atheism, Judaism, Sikhism, Jainism, I don't know what that is, Confucianism. So I use the word creation. I don't use the word creationism because it's confused with a religion. Now, if they insist on calling it creationism, then I will go along with them and call it evolutionism. More about that next week. God rests, and then we're going to discuss evolution. So, our pop quiz this week. You should be taking notes. You guys did poorly on the last quiz that I gave you. In fact, nobody turned in their half sheets of paper. So we're going to change the format. I want you to get out your cell phones, tablets, computers, and log on to my website. The quiz is there. Answer the questions, and then I'll tell you the results next week. And here's my website, www.dan_clark/retired_Kim_teacher. Is that a forward slash, Lori? Over _ the _hill.stale_jokes /photoshopper_wannabe /former QBE_who_can't_throw_5 yards / because of rotator cuff surgery. So I'll give you a moment to log on to that. It's right there for you. Log on. And then here are the 4 questions I would ask you. Oh, .com, sorry. What plant structure transports water and minerals through the plants? Okay, log in with your answer. All right. Second question. Water is incredible. It doesn't sound like a question, does it? What important property of water causes ice to float on liquid water? Okay. Type in your answer. All right. Besides being perfectly located in our solar system, what other location was perfect? Okay. Type in your answer. By the way, without that location, we wouldn't be able to see much of the universe. That's the hint. All right, the 4th question. Which direction does light refract when it moves to a slower medium? Example, traveling from air to glass. All right, type in your answer, and then tap the done, old button at the bottom when you're done with the questions. And let's go ahead and answer them. What plant structure transports water through plants? Yes? Xylem and phloem. The easy way to remember that is xylophone. Xylophone. Xylem, phloem. Okay. I have to have things like that to remind me of certain words. The phloem and the xylem. Without that, and without the properties of water, namely surface tension, the plants that are taller than 2 or 3 inches could not survive. All right, second question. What important property of water causes ice to float? And we don't even think about this. You know, you get out your Coca-Cola. Oh, wait, because of Major League Baseball, you'd probably do Pepsi. You get out your Pepsi, put ice cubes in it, floats to the top. Why? Because water is one of the few substances that expands when it freezes. It doesn't contract. It expands when it freezes. Derek's giving me some kind of signal. I don't know what it means. Steal second base? I'm not sure. You got to give me the indicator if you're going to do that stuff like that. Besides being perfectly located, without this location, we wouldn't be able to see much of the universe. What's the other location? Location in our galaxy. So as the Earth's location in the Milky Way is perfect to observe the universe. By the way, if we put in one of the spiral arms, we might not have existed as long as we have. Which direction does light refract when it moves to a slower medium? I'll give you a hint. It's either toward the normal or perpendicular or away from the normal or perpendicular. Do you know? You got a 50-50 chance here. It bends toward the normal. And I commented that this, if we didn't have this property of light, you and I would not be able to see. Creatures and man, the crown of creation.
And God said, "Let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing, and beast of the earth after his kind." And it was so. And God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good.
So I'm going to show you a variety of the animals created on the sixth day. The photographer's last photo. By the way, except for the skeleton, we don't know the color of the animals. And we guess about its habitat, its diet, and all those kind of things. Could it have looked like this? Certainly. I have been accused of not believing in dinosaurs. That's kind of a stretch. I've been in the Field Museum and walked in and saw a Tyrannosaurus Rex, the bones of the Tyrannosaurus Rex there. By the way, when you see all these bones and you see one that is pure white, what do you know about that bone? It's been reconstructed. We're not saying that bone wasn't there or there's any lying going on. There would be a guess as to what the structure would look like. If it was a rib, it'd be pretty easy. It's halfway between this rib and this rib. So Laurie and I were out in Arizona. The main thing we were going to see there was the Grand Canyon. I forgot to send a note to the principal about these two girls up here talking the whole time. I was going to put them in detention, but so we're driving along in Tuba City, Arizona, and we saw this pathetic-looking sign. You see the TC up there, Tuba City, and you're going, what? I looked at Laura and I go, should we stop? It was worse than this. It was like a crummy garage sale sign. It's horrible. And she said, well, we've made the drive here. We might as well. We're on our way up to see the Grand Canyon from, I think, the hole in the ground caused by the meteor crater. I think that's where we were going. And so we pulled off the road. A guy came out from a shack in the back and showed us things. By the way, the tracks don't look quite like this. Our guide carried a bottle of water with him, not only because of the temperature, but also to moisten the tracks so that they would show up. So apparently that's a theropod, or was a theropod. And we took a number of pictures. After about 5 minutes, he said, okay, thank you. He looked at Laurie and she looked at me, and I'm a teacher. I don't make a lot of money. Selling tests that year was not very good, so I said, do people pay you? He goes, yeah, if you want. So I gave him $5, and he goes, come back with me. And then he spent another half an hour showing us stuff. So here's Laurie putting her hand down to see what that dino track looked like. Another dino track. Notice the marks around the track. Someone in the middle of the night was cutting out the dino tracks in order to take them home. And the guy came out and caught him doing that. So there, you can see the marks there. So once again, our guide with my beautiful wife. She's the one with her eyes closed. In honor of Earl, apparently these are Allosaurus tracks. It was pretty interesting. And then I did come back and look it up. Are these really dino tracks? And the consensus is that they are. I got a great big demo sign there because I wanted to make sure that I saw that ahead of time. Because the last time I kind of blew past one of them. I need a volunteer.
Dan, what would prevent those dinosaur tracks from being washed away or swept away in wind or anything like that?
That's an excellent question. I think this part of Arizona got 1 or 2 inches of rain a year. They were not, the guide told us they were not allowed to come out and excavate. The only thing they could do is after a rain, they would come out and see if there are any new tracks. So that's an excellent point. But this was pretty hard rock. Volunteer. Okay, I'll do it myself. All right, so I went to Penny's. They had a half off sale. I have no idea. So I went ahead and bought one because I knew I needed one for today. And let me just show you the burning cloth. Do I have a fire extinguisher handy? I don't think we'll need one. This works a lot. A lot of my demonstrations work a lot better in a chemistry lab rather than in a church. We need to get these sharpened, Laurie. Okay. Good enough. Down the hatch. This works a lot better with beaker tongs. I don't have all my lab equipment, so I'll use these vice grips. I think I'll use them. All right. I'm not telling you. You thought I messed up and wasn't going to tell you. Okay, and if we could turn the lights out as much as possible. Remind me to keep that hand away from the flame. Okay. So here's a combustion without combustion. This is actually a fairly safe demonstration if you don't let kids do stupid stuff with it, like grab it. Okay, so you know about the burning bush. That was a miracle. This is not a miracle. It's something I've done many times. Let's not go ahead and touch that, Jerry. You think it's going to be? I think it's always cautious. Do you notice anything about it? A little warm. Should be warm. It had a fire. Notice anything about it? It's wet. It's wet? Yeah. How about an odor? I don't smell it. Here's what I would recommend you do. Waft it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's got an odor to it. So what was in the beaker? What's that?
Isopropyl alcohol.
It's more than just isopropyl alcohol. Isopropyl alcohol, if I dipped it in isopropyl alcohol, we would have a crispy critter when we're done. It would burn up. The trick to this one is 50% isopropyl alcohol, 50% water. Okay? The water raises the kindling point so that the cloth, which normally would be consumed at that temperature, would burn up. Okay? By the way, the 3 requirements for combustion are: you need a fuel, you need something to get it going, a match, enough temperature, and you need oxygen. Those three things. All right? So my wife says, what does this have to do with mankind? Well, my simple answer is, I've never seen a monkey do this before. All right. What's that? You could say that if you want to repeat the class. So the tremendous variety of animals, thousands and thousands and thousands of different varieties. By the way, there's something really wrong with this picture. You know it's Photoshop, but there's something really wrong with it. Biologically, polar bears and penguins are on totally different continents. All right? Who knows? Penguins might have been up there for a while, but they're not there anymore. Reminds me of lunchroom at Frontier High School. I did have a student. You get all kinds. I did have a student that came to Frontier that kind of looked like this. The one on the right, not the one on the left. All right, I'm not telling you which one she is, but I wanted her to say something last week. She didn't, about what happened when you got in the pool and you got out and you said something to me that was pretty exciting about swimming with the false killer whale. The thing that struck me was you told me you could not believe the power of this animal as it swam through the ocean. All right, so something that we're probably a little more familiar with. That's one of my better Photoshops.
George, you got a gift. What's in there? What is that? Open it up. What do you think, George? George, it's a bed. George! George, what do you think of your new bed? Ooh, organic cotton. Sit on our new bed.
Yeah, we like to think about them as having some human characteristics, and that's really cute, and absolutely nothing compared to the intellect we have.
One more back one? There you go.
By the way, next week you're going to find out that humans are actually fish, according to one evolutionist. incredible varieties of dogs. Unbelievable. And to me, I probably should have shown you this last week because we talked about birds and fish last week. Could you stand that absolutely still to do that? God has a remarkable, just a remarkable sense of creativity. Fascinating. How did they train their dogs to do this?
You have made them a little lower than the angels and crowned them with glory and honor. You made them rulers over the works of your hands. You put everything under their feet, all flocks and herds, and the animals of the wild, the birds in the sky, and the fish in the sea, all that swim the paths of the seas.
Psalm 19 used to be my favorite psalm. Psalm 8 has become my favorite.
And God said, "Let us make man in our image,
In our
after our
image.
likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." And God said, "Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat." And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day.
Very good. In the words of John MacArthur, there is no hint, absolutely no hint at all in Genesis 1 and 2 of evolution. None whatsoever. I don't want to steal what we're going to talk about next week. This has happened to me a couple times. So here's my task this morning: to explain how the human body works in 20 minutes. I'm ready for that challenge. So here's what we do. We take the human body, and scientists and doctors, the medical field, they split it into different systems. Okay? The nervous system, the circulatory system, the digestive system, the muscular system, the respiratory system, and the skeletal system. Now, this is not all the systems, but this is a fairly good representation of the human body.
I'll be back.
Yeah. In fact, on the next slide, he'll be back. So, when we're studying biology, what is the basic unit of each system in the body? What is the basic unit? Yes, the cell. Now, scientists, including Darwin, thought the cell to be a simple structure, just a little bit of protoplasm. That's what a cell is. Darwinists today will tell you, no, he didn't believe that, but here's a website in case you're interested. Now, before I show you this next video, you need to understand it's an artist's conception of what's going on in the cell, and in little hexagonal pictures are photomicrographs of the actual structure that they're trying to represent. Took me a little while to figure that out. So we see an artist's conception of the cell, and then we see actual photographs, micrographs. Remember, this is just a simple structure.
Explore your inner universe. Every protein in your body has its place in time and space. The human body consists of trillions of cells. Each cell contains proteins organized to maintain its structure and function. Join us on our journey and explore a world of cellular information. The bustling activity of the human cell is maintained as proteins perform specific tasks in designated compartments, called organelles. The plasma membrane encloses the cell. By creating a physical barrier, it separates the cytosol and organelles of the cell from the surrounding environment. This is the site of cell-to-cell interaction and communication, and anchors the cell to its surroundings. The organelles are embedded in the cytosol, a semi-fluid substance containing proteins, ions, and metabolites. This is the site of several cellular processes, including protein synthesis, interorganelle transport, and a variety of metabolic reactions. A multitude of mitochondria are responsible for the production of cellular energy. However, they also participate in many other functions, such as signaling, cell death, and cellular differentiation. There are three types of cytoskeletons in the cell: microtubules, actin filaments, and intermediate filaments. These structures are crucial for maintaining cellular structure and
just a simple cell with these parts. By the way, this is a generic cell. This would not be any one specific, but all of these parts would be typical of a cell. Okay? The average man contains between 30 to 40 trillion cells. What's the population of the earth? About 8 billion, right? 30 to 40 trillion cells. Women, more than that. Now, what are the basic requirements for the cell to function properly? Each cell has to have all of these things. And we're not going to go with the 4 basic requirements for life. Here we're talking about they need nutrition, they need oxygen, they need waste removal. Those 3 things are required. So let's look at the human body. And let's see what happens. How does nutrition get to each of the cells in the body? With no nutrition there, the cell is going to die. Well, it depends upon 2. Hello. It's happened before. It depends upon the digestive system and the circulatory system. You eat food, the only conscious thing you do is chew and swallow. Your body takes care of the rest, doesn't it? But it's got to get nutrition there. As it goes through the digestive tract, different parts of the body has veins and arteries that flow through that system to draw out the nutrients, and then goes into the bloodstream and goes to the cell. By the way, I'm more interested in the chemistry, which we may talk about next week. We may. How does oxygen get to the body? How does it get to each cell? We need the respiratory system, and once again, we need the circulatory system. Here's a picture of the heart with the lung beside it. Each one of these parts in the lung have to be able to exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide, and then it has to get to each cell. Rather than me taking 5 minutes to explain it, I found a pretty good video that will explain it.
When you breathe, air travels through your nose, down the trachea, and into smaller and smaller airways called bronchi. These bronchi branch into smaller passages called bronchioles, and finally into small, thin, traction sacs called alveoli. During inspiration, the alveoli in the lungs are filled with air. It is here that oxygen is exchanged for carbon dioxide. Blood cells absorb oxygen from the capillaries in the alveoli. As carbon dioxide, the waste product, is released back into the lungs from the veins. During expiration, the carbon dioxide is expelled from the body. Oxygen-rich blood then travels to the heart so it can be pumped back to the body where it is needed.
And of course, there are other animals that have this same oxygen, carbon dioxide exchange. Talked about that last week a little bit. So as a chemist, I'm interested in the chemistry part of it. Hemoglobin is a tiny molecule that oxygen can attach to, and then when it gets to the cell, can be released to be used by the cell. I don't know how much longer that'll be good for. So here's a hemoglobin, a simple molecule. By the way, I always hearken back to what Darwin said. If you can show that it can't happen over a series of small steps, something to evolve, then my theory would be defunct. All right? So, what is the mastermind? What is the mastermind of all of these systems? I've only talked about two of them, but what is the mastermind of the bodily systems? The brain. All right? Let's take a look at a normal brain. Okay, so we'll take a side view. We'll do an MRI of it. Oops, that's not a normal brain. By the way, I think he's probably a pretty smart guy. Brain has 4 lobes, 2 hemispheres, left and right, and each of these hemispheres branch off into 2 nervous systems, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. And here's a breakdown of what the central nervous system does and what the peripheral nervous system does. In this autonomic nervous system, you think about things that are just done automatically without you thinking about it. As an example, you're not thinking about breathing right now, are you? No. But you could. Expand the diaphragm, deflate the diaphragm. You could take control of that. And so on. Now, the left brain is supposed to control something different than the right brain. The left brain is supposed to control logic, analysis, organization, administration, math and science, knowledge and facts. The details. The right side of the brain, emotion, intuition, spirituality, interpersonal skills, art and music, and belief. By the way, I wanted to know how they know that. How do they know this? And the answer is from disease. People that have damage to one side or the other of the brain, they realize they lose some of the functions that we would consider. And also through functional magnetic resonance imaging. I would say this, there's no brain in the animal's kingdom that even comes close to the complexity of the human brain. Not even close. Yet many human brains think it is a brain evolved over millions of years from pond scum. The idea was in the early primeval Earth's system, there were these compounds in the ocean, and lightning or volcanic activity or something like that caused the pond scum. And they say 4 billion years ago. And here's an experiment done by Miller and Urey back in the 50s. I'm going to do something similar to that up here. I do have a video of Miller, but it's such poor quality that I didn't include it. Methane, hydrogen, and ammonia is introduced to the system. Tungsten electrodes, flash, and voila. Amino acids, sugars, and tars are found in this little trap down here. By the way, an intelligent being set up this experiment, didn't he? How do they know it was there to begin with? So I thought I would see if I could make some life for you. Do I have a volunteer? Okay, I guess I'll do it again. I have a Tesla coil here. Yeah, you can turn the lights down. Tesla coil. I did not get a subsidy from the government for buying this. I'm not against electric cars. I'm against somebody artificially causing the price of Tesla cars to be low. If they're indeed economic, I usually try to move this far away from my computer. I've seen it zap my computer before. So we have a little mini spark there. Kids love to get shocked. I've got some videos of them. Oh yeah, Mr. Clark, shock us. So let me take some isopropyl alcohol, put it in my little Miller apparatus here. Doesn't look quite as fancy as his, does it? In fact, it looks like a juice bottle with a couple of nails on either side of it. Okay. What are the 3 requirements for a combustion? You need a spark. You need a fuel. And you need oxygen. So here's where I normally just reach over to the sink and dump that out. I want to get this alcohol as vaporized as I can in the little juice bottle. And you know what I'm going to do, don't you? I'm going to spark this using the Tesla coil. And I normally have a student do this and I get 10 feet away from it. Okay, I'm going to need that cork. Went back here? Thank you. That's kind of, I never know where it's going to go. It's kind of like when I watch Jerry hit a golf ball. So what, by the way, the kids always go, do it again. And so I pour more alcohol in there, put the cork on, and try it, and it never works again. Why? I've used the oxygen up. Who said that? I've used the oxygen is gone. I've got to let it sit there for a while, and then it'll work a little bit later. So here's what they formed. Here's what Miller formed. Among all the tar, and I'm not going to talk about chirality today, organic chirality, but here's an amino acid, the ball and stick. The ball and stick is so that we can see where the atoms are located in the molecule. This is probably more what it looked like, space-filling molecule. So here's an amino acid, and here's a protein. Oh, they're quite a long ways away from getting the protein, aren't they? So you can't imagine how many pictures I tried. You know, this is probably not the way it happened. It's not an actual photograph. But how are humans different from the animals? And these are just a few things. Creativity, the ability to invent, think up new ideas, new ways to do things. Rulership. God has delegated to man limited rulership here on the earth. This does not mean that we go through and destroy things. We're supposed to be good stewards of what God has given us. Personality, the ability to think, feel, decide, talk. Again, this is not a complete list. Morality, the understanding of right and wrong. We might question that nowadays. And there's where I borrowed that from. This is not a complete listing. So Lori and I were over at the grandkids a few years ago. We're doing tongue twisters with them. Like unique, New York. Try that later on. Say it fast 3 times. If I ever get discouraged, I pull up that video. What a great little laugh. How are humans different from the animals? Out of God's entire creation, he chose humans to resemble himself. For those who have accepted Christ as Lord and Savior, he sees us through the righteousness of Jesus. We are holy and blameless in his sight, Colossians 1:22. So Lori and I went to Purdue's FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, last Tuesday night, and this was our topic. Cool. I'm able to get those grandkids in there, aren't I? A omniscient, omnipotent, fantastic creator who created thousands and thousands and thousands of varieties of animals uniquely suited to their environment. I recommend Acts and Facts, something you can get free. Just go to icr.org. Here's some examples of articles that you could have read this week. And another one, Creation Magazine. Excellent resources for you and your family. That is all.